What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and it is reaction time. The Cats have just come off a 76-point win against the Port Adelaide Football Club. It's been less than an hour since the game has wrapped up. You're seeing it the next morning, and let's get into a match reaction here where we talk about a very, very exciting result. Let's get into the top-level stuff before we get a little bit more granular. The final scores, the Cats, 17-13, 115, beating the Power, 5-9-39. As I said, a 76-point win there for the Cats. It was a pretty comprehensive drubbing in the end. We'll talk about the worm and what we can glean from it shortly. But first, let's take a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, I referenced this worm. Let's get into the tail of the tape here. And there was a bit of an arm wrestle early on. Some inaccuracy from Port Adelaide that kind of, kept us in it. I wouldn't go as far as say in it, but I guess they capitalized on some opportunities, failed in some other areas, and kind of cost themselves a potential lead going into halftime. But they certainly look like the team that was struggling most. They were fighting to keep their heads above water due to injury. Whole range of factors. What a game when it comes to injuries. The number of hamstrings. There was three hamstrings, two to really significant players in Jason Horne-Francis and Paddy Dangerfield. You can toss Jack Bowes in there as well. People were dropping like flies from both teams. Subs were rung early. What a chaotic game. But, to Port's great credit in the first half, they kind of stuck it out and they kind of remained in it, I suppose. But then the Cats put the foot to the floor and really pulled away hard with a 5-goal 6 third term and a 7-goal 4 final term. Held together underpinned by an extraordinary 7-goal performance from Jeremy Cameron. His final goal coming with a second to go in the game on the run, so he nearly blew it. But an extraordinary result from the Cats. Fantastic to see. Really helps our finals aspirations. If you've caught my video that I posted yesterday about Geelong's finals prospects and what the fixture looks like, you'll kind of know that I felt like this was a really important one, a jumping off point for a pretty, I wouldn't say comfortable, but not the most intense of runs home. And so if we can kind of bank these wins when they come and do it comprehensively, that's fantastic. It provides opportunities to rest players later in the season, but we'll talk about those. We've got the Paul James show. We've got post-game live. We've got more reaction videos in the future to talk more about that. Let's get into this game and some team numbers, and all of it really just supports the dominance of the Cats here. The disposal count, sure, favoured the Power. We've spoken about this time and time again. Geelong is not a high possession team. The fact that we're above our average in this case tells us all you really need to know there. But Port were just flicking the ball around, handballs and chip kicks and all sorts of, were largely pretty ineffective, I should say. So that kind of got them in knots at different stages. You can see the disparity there between the kicks to handball ratio. It's quite huge, heavily favouring Geelong, and was reflected kind of in the final result. Far more inside 50s. We dominated in that respect. Disposal efficiency. The last quarter was extraordinary. I think at one point we were going about 80-odd%. Geelong's efficiency inside 50 was back to its really high standard once again. Below our average, but a really good high standard. You'd expect it to dip a little bit considering the conditions. It was, that ball, especially in the first half, was a bit of a cake of soap and pretty difficult for players to handle. So for the numbers in a lot of these respects, especially disposal efficiency, to be as high as they were, is a massive credit to the Cats, technically to both teams, because Port have maintained their average as well. But yeah, it's, I guess, where they got the ball that was kind of most hampering Port's ability to drive the ball forward in this particular case. Geelong, the midfielders played a really great defensive role and then burst incredibly well going forward to attack those Port defenders who were getting increasingly depleted as players dropped, as midfielders dropped. They weakened significantly, and Geelong put the foot to the throat and squeezed, and good on them. They got the win. Free kick count, not much to see there. Pretty well equal for both teams. Hit-outs was awesome to see, considering that we obviously still are not playing with a genuine number one go-to ruckman. Mark Blitzarves, of course, doing a fantastic job in there, but outgunned, to kind of relatively break even in that respect is awesome. And the clearance figures, something we tend to lose all the time. Both, sometimes center, sometimes clearances overall, sometimes just stoppages. Like it's not necessarily been our greatest strength, but in this match, look at us go. At 12-8 when it comes to center clearances, 31-22 around the ground. And really, I mean, the likes of Zach Butters, Connor Rosie, obviously Horn Francis, but he was injured. And a lot of those other kind of key power midfielders just couldn't really get their hands on it, couldn't put up much of a fight. Massive credit to one, we'll talk more about him shortly, but one of our Irish, young up-and-coming Irish rock stars for doing an amazing job on Zach Butters there. We'll talk about Oisin Mullins shortly. The contested and uncontested possession count, like again, I spoke about Port having to flick the ball around and just kind of, play ring-a-rosy at different points and missing targets and turnovers. It's kind of all highlighted here. Geelong's number of turnovers relatively high, but again, the conditions enable that a little bit. Possession dominant throughout the game, throughout the quarter, throughout the final 10 minutes. Geelong just squeezed throughout the game. And again, the marking figures here kind of reflect the fact that we played more of that kicking game versus Port Adelaide, a handballing sort of affair for them. Their contested marking was pretty great, especially Mitch Georgiades, who I thought was really impressive in that respect. I think the nature of the speed that we put on the game this week, coupled with the weather, meant that it wasn't necessarily going to be the best. Like for us, the way we played, it wasn't necessarily going to be a big contested marking night, though there were a few good clunks along the way. But that kind of, I guess, explains why you're seeing the figures the way they are here. And then we're just talking about scoring at this point. Defensive pressure was awesome. Look, defensively, offensively, this is very much a complete performance. And don't make anything of the interchanges for both teams. That's what you get when players are injured. Port needed to play a slower game in the second half to conserve their players, to give themselves a chance. Didn't obviously work for them, but that's why their interchanges are low. Geelong, a little bit the same when we lost both Jack Bowes and Patrick Dangerfield. Let's get over to some individual player figures here. And there are lots of highlights to focus on here. Bailey Smith, again, doing what Bailey Smith does. 30 disposals for him. Certainly in the best half a dozen on the ground. Mark O'Connor with his best game, not just this season, but in years, for my mind, was absolutely extraordinary with intercept marks, getting his hands on the ball regularly. Lots of great pressure around the contest as well. Just the head over the ball and charge through. He was absolutely fantastic. The Irish, they just thrived in these conditions tonight. From Mark O'Connor's 28 to then, and I'm looking for him here because it's not necessarily a high disposal game, but Oisin Mullins keeping Zach Butters to a very miserly total, and he had to really, really work to get I think it was mid to late teens number of disposals that he actually got. A brilliant performance from Oisin Mullins, highlighted by the almost parody of disposals to tackles here, really kept them at bay. But if we cycle back through the players here, Brian Myers was the top-ranked player on the ground according to Champion Data, but he was really important around the ground. I mean, we'll check the all-important figure for Brian, which is score involvements and potentially goal assists, and he got six score involvements. And for some reason, I can't find the goal assists, so we'll bounce back from there. Goal assists, there it is. Goal assist. Let me sort by disposals again, and then get our goal assist. Another one goal assist as well. It was a very grind night. Plenty of ball to accumulate, but then really dangerous when he had his hands on it as well. Ollie Dempsey could have ripped this game apart. He kicked 2 goals, 3, but he had a 10-minute patch in the third quarter where he absolutely dominated this match. He was absolutely extraordinary throughout, but had a real highlight period there it was pretty awesome. Tom Atkins doing what Tom Atkins does. A little less of a tackle game, but I think the game that we played as a team that night didn't necessarily lend itself to him wrapping players up and locking players down all the time, especially when you've got Mullen playing that really tight defensive role on Butters. Max Holmes, you saw some signs of him really starting to hit full flight. Shawnee Manor was solid again. Zach Guthrie doing some great things. A dodgy push in the back there against Mitch Georgiades in I think it was the fourth quarter. A bit of a lapse from him there that led to a great goal to Mitch, but he was fantastic again. Lawson Humphreys doing some extraordinary stuff and kicking a goal, and it was great to see the recognition that he then gave to the jumper that him and his sister Misa designed. That was fantastic to see. Jeremy Cameron with his best game of the season, 16 disposals and 7 goals won. Like I mentioned before, the last of those goals coming with a mere second to go on the clock. Mark Blitzar's doing a great job in the ruck and around the ground. Mitch Duncan with another really solid performance coming off the bench as the sub in the first quarter, got injected into the action really quickly. He probably didn't expect that, but he performed really, really well. And game 300, presumably next week, beckons. Brad Close, the usual deal with him. Some really handy tap-ons, some things that don't get measured statistically, but were really, really important. He was fantastic. Jed Buse, I'm loving what Jed Buse has done since he's joined the seniors team again this year and become available after that dodgy dishwasher incident. Tyson Stengel had another nearly game. He's getting there. Ollie Henry as well. Big step in the right direction. And Shannon Neal. They're my 3 that I've been focusing on for weeks now, that have struggled a little bit with danger and the presence he's had in the forward line and their new roles. But he has really, with his absence from early on in the game, they all got to spread. They all got to find space. They all did some really, really good things. I think this was a big step forward for all 3, despite the fact that they each only kicked 1 goal. Sam De Koning with some great work, both in that key defensive post. He was awesome again. We can see the shift here. We've obviously seen that the club's been eager to flirt with the idea of him being a ruckman, but seemingly no longer. I think they're more willing to send Shannon Neal over there to assist rather than Sam De Koning, keep him at full back, and he's been fantastic. There's been a few stats come out this week to further support that. We've spoken about Oisin Mullen. Jack Henry with his first game back with some really great intercept marks and one-on-one contested marks as well. He was great. Connor O'Sullivan with a quiet game, but that's fine. The defenders didn't have to do a lot. And then our 2 injured beasts, Jack Bowes and Patrick Dangerfield, Jack Bowes got a goal on board nice and early. Danger, threatened on a few occasions, but both were taken out pretty early on in the affair. A bit of a shame. I expect that they'll both miss at least a few games apiece, but we'll have to see how long that extends for. That's the game. Geelong, as I said before, 17-13, 115, beating the Power. 5-9-39, a great win from the Cats. Thank you everyone for having tuned in and checked out this match reaction. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our Hoops Crew YouTube channel. You're on it right now. It doesn't take long to hit the subscribe button. Bash the like button as well. Share this video with your friends, your family, just online through social media. Get the word of the Hoops Crew out there. We want to have more of these great conversations about the club that we love, and we want more people to join us in that dialogue. If you're really enjoying what we do, consider checking out our Patreon. It is patreon.com/thehoopscrew, where you can sign up for $5 and get access to early access content. There's extended content and exclusives that we deliver just to our patrons, from the Chaps Chat Cats 2s to my scratching post videos and a whole lot more. There's extended versions of some of those shows too. Lots of stuff for people to go and check out. So please go and check out all of the stuff that we've got there. There's a 7-day free trial, so you can try before you buy as well. You'll find me on socials at Paul James Games, the Hoops Crew at the Hoops Crew. And until next time, remain Geelong strong, everyone. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you later.